Hello and welcome back to the Bright Founders Talk podcast from Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. My name is Chris and today's guest is someone who has worked in many years of business and is now a co-founder of his own fintech startup, Oliver Berchtold. I hope I got that right. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
You did. So I'm doing great. Thanks. Thanks for inviting me.
A pleasure. As always, got some quick fire questions. The first one, what's your favorite way to kick off the day?
Well, my favorite way to kick off the day is, of course, making a nice barista coffee. So I'm quite into coffee and, of course, give me also the insights I need for the day. So maybe leading a bit to what we do at Euclid Lab. I like to do the analogy to coffee. So in coffee, you kind of, choose the best beans, then you have the process, you prepare it, and you get the nice espresso, which is the digest. And that's basically what we do with news. We aggregate all news, then look for what's relevant for you as our user and prepare that in a nice, energizing way so that you have all the insights, kind of decide what is it worth digging into when you spend your 30 to 60 minutes reading news for your job. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Are you more of an AeroPress system or more of a French press or more of the aggressive mocha style?
Well, I like AeroPress, but at home I have a classical Siebträger barista machine. So that's La Basilea, it's called. Yeah. That's what I go for. I do drink a lot of cappuccino.
The second question is, what's your favorite non-tech way to relax?
Well, non-tech way, I live here in Switzerland at the Bodensee. So I think going out with my stand-up paddle, of course, in the summer when it's nice weather on a flat lake. I do that mostly after work when the sun goes down. So kind of like a sundowner exercise, jump into the lake, recharge the batteries and connect with nature. That really energizes me and also gets my thoughts on more basic things like, I don't know, watching nature, the birds, and just enjoying life and trying to do that as often as I can.
Well, the next question might be influenced by nature then. What's your favorite place that you have traveled to for business or leisure?
So the best places I traveled to is a long list. So I would say Iceland from nature perspective. So I like photography. So I think, I never stopped that many times on a road trip to take pictures as in Iceland. It's just amazing, very different. Also, Bolivia, I really much like the salt desert. So Uyuni Desert is probably the most abstract place on earth I've been to. And of course, I like islands for summer holidays. Menorca or Sardinia are really cool places to go to, or Azore Islands, which are not so known and very cool to explore. So
okay,
that's pure leisure. For work, I think it's a bit the big cities where you have business. So recently I had to go to Barcelona. London is always cool. So there's many nice cities to go.
Brilliant. I thought I was sensing a sort of cold and remote theme with like Uyuni in Bolivia and Iceland, but you do like the Mallorca from time to time as well. So nice mix.
Yeah, that was just let's say the special places based on the nature, but I'm actually more into warm places. Yeah, you're right there. So I like everything that you can go to the beach, swim, and all of the Caribbean coast of South and Central America. Were my favorite places to go to. If it's for big cities, I think Rio de Janeiro is actually a very cool place to go to. Very vibrant and lots of different things, rich and poor next to each other, and every day something new going on. You have the beach, you have the mountains, very cool nature and people. So that's definitely also a cool place to go to and visit one time in your life.
Too much going on. Too much. So moving on from your favorite destination, I saw that there was something we'll talk about later. UCALab. It's based in Berlin, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's correct.
And you're from
We're actually
Switzerland.
based at the Bikini House in Berlin.
What's the Bikini House?
Bikini
If I dare
House
ask.
Berlin. That's a iconic building. Yeah, so everyone needs to wear a bikini now. It's a famous building at Berlin Zoo, and they renovated it. And actually, the first time I was in Berlin, there was actually nothing there, just the zoo and the former biggest cinema place in Europe, and it was quite empty, deserted, and that place really transformed. And one renovation was the Bikini House, which is a very architectural, iconic building now with a shopping mall. And on top we have the offices. There's a mini restaurant that overlooks the whole of Berlin, and there's a monkey bar, and you can actually see the monkeys directly from our office. So it's very cool.
But you're from Switzerland. You live there now, right?
Yes.
I'm just curious, what's it like starting a business and maybe just working in Switzerland or Germany in general?
It is very different if you compare Switzerland to Germany. If you do a startup, I mean, Switzerland is small, and if you do an accelerator program, as we did the Kickstart in Zurich, you get connected to the digital leaders of Swiss companies pretty much in one program, and you can do up to 5 to 6 client appointments by foot. So it's very efficient and good to kind of work the market just as founders, which is very handy. Germany, on the other hand, you have Berlin, you have Hamburg, you have Munich, you have Düsseldorf with its own ecosystem, and you would need to be present there, know the people, and if you want to do a lot of meetings, you need to make them work in one city, right? So it's much harder to have this efficiency in investor meetings or sales meetings. So that's what Switzerland brought to us. Was very good for meeting clients and getting the support. And Berlin, that's where we have our talent hub, because we are a deep tech company, and we, from the start, we're looking for NLP specialists, ML specialists, AI specialists, which you don't usually find easily, right? But they all want to go to Berlin. So we are 28 people, and I think 20 roughly nations. So people come from all over the place to Berlin, and that gives us a unique mix for our team. And that's why Berlin is a very cool hub for us. And the pairing with Switzerland is great. Yeah.
Well, if I just go quickly, then I was going to ask you about other hubs that might be emerging. Like you said, Berlin is a sort of a tech hub, let's say, for that kind of like-minded people. Have you noticed any other cities or countries that are emerging? Is Switzerland sort of growing in that area? Maybe I don't know, Zurich, for example.
Well, I mean, we just got accepted in a scale accelerator from PwC in Belgium, and actually from the 8 or 10 startups accepted, there were quite a number from Switzerland. So I think it does have a very strong startup scene. Maybe that's also because we are, more targeted toward finance, and of course, there's naturally a lot of people with knowledge and ideas in this area in Switzerland. So I do think the Swiss startup scene is strong. Also has a growing ecosystem of investors, has good tech and programmers with ETH and University of St. Gallen. So I think it's a quite innovative country as such. And of course, there's also a lot of corporates which are potential clients. So it is definitely a strong startup scene, but also France. In Paris, there's a lot going on. Pretty much most countries kind of up their game, Lisbon and so on. So I would say, all regions have accelerator programs. Corporates opened up to them. So I think that changed a lot in the past 5 years. And of course, London is a big hub, especially for funding. I think that's the number one in Europe. And Nordics countries are very innovative, as we all know. So they also have a very vibrant startup scene.
In terms of your studies, I saw that you studied business administration, design thinking, and business innovation. Can you tell us a little bit more about, like, why did you combine those? I think it's a sort of an interesting combination. Did you have a vision of what you wanted to do, or was it more just like, oh, this looks cool, I'll do that? How did you feel at the time?
Well, in the bachelor's degree at the University of St. Gallen, you kind of got to choose business administration. So it's kind of the foundational study where you kind of need to survive the first years, because 50% are dropping out after the first years. So you learn to go the extra mile and to work hard and to perform your best. So that was great. And then for the master's, I took business innovation. At that time, it was a very weird name in German, which I thought, what does that even mean? Now it's called business innovation. So always was more attracted from innovation topics and strategy, because I was very entrepreneurial due to the fact that my parents also are entrepreneurs. But it wasn't such a big topic at that time. Innovation didn't yet hit the mainstream. It wasn't really something that companies needed to do to stay competitive. So that was a way for me to kind of get into topic. And in the master's, I then connected it with design thinking, which was the best experience I had, because it was very practical course. We had a corporate sponsor, we had a budget of 30K, and we had the problem statement of bringing video communication to Swiss households, because at the time no one wanted to do what we were just doing, video chat. And we followed the methodology, built a prototype, and it was just amazing to see the reaction of people to what we have been building. And actually, it hasn't been built as good as of today. We built a device where you had 360 hearing, and you could steer it in another location, because we found out the only situations where you want to do video communication is where you can join, a birthday party of your nephew, and you log in, but you feel lost on a screen, right? You can't participate because you have no physical presence. So you could steer sort of like your head, and you have 360-degree hearing. You could easily turn that, and they could see your face, which gave quite a natural interaction. And that was quite interesting to see how people really were laughing and had fun trying it out. Unfortunately, it never got realized. And back then, it wasn't easy to get funding for something like that. But it was, a very good experience, and I definitely learned a lot about innovation and trends of the time.
It's interesting, because I think 360. I mean, I recently, a year ago, I purchased my own 360 camera. I think they're quite popular nowadays. So it's interesting how a few years later, it's commonplace. I also saw that you did a lot of speaking events. You were a speaker at various conferences. Did you feel like it was important, from your experience maybe in the course, design thinking course and so on, did you feel like it was important to sort of give back or maybe mentor? In other words, did you have your own mentor during that period? Did you have someone that you could guide you?
I had a mentor back at uni, and I'm having a guest lecture every year at the University of St. Gallen. So I'm doing this for 7 or 8 years already, and I get student teams that I do a project with. So I feel that's kind of me trying to, I always include, why did I choose my career path? What are my insights that I learned, next to presenting what we do at UCLab and how technology works and what they can do with that. So that's probably the mentoring work I do. And of course, with the people that work at UCLab, where I try to kind of give them my knowledge and bring them to the next level, and have them grow as much as they can in the role, or to the role that they want. I don't have particularly too much time to get mentors from myself next to that. But of course, you get a lot of guidance from my co-founders, from the investors, and so on.
All right. So maybe doing a bit of headhunting while you're a guest speaker, thinking that student's pretty interesting. Maybe they might be interested in working at UCLabs in the future, or maybe just a very nice guy.
Yes, we did that. Yeah, I mean, of course, if they want to do an internship after the course, that's great. And yeah, we actually have quite a few examples where that happened. And I think that's actually a very great way for them to work on big tasks and get a lot of responsibility right off the bat. So it is a good career track because you can grow with the company into a position very quickly where you would need years in a corporate, and you might never end in that seat because there's much more political hurdles there. Yeah.
After you left university, you entered the world of business. What was that like? And more interestingly, were there any skills that you picked up during that time that you still use today in your company?
Well, I would say definitely the design thinking skills of fast prototyping, how to look for the underlying needs that you want to cater with your product. Yeah, how to excel in what you do, how to present, how to learn something new. So these were all basic skills that I picked up that I use on a daily basis. So yeah, that's definitely all very valuable and helped me along the way.
During that time, you worked in Chile, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
What was that like?
Between masters and bachelor. Yeah, it was a startup incubator actually, and I said at that time innovation wasn't so big, and that was a very innovative program that had embedded innovation programs already. So Telefonica was the client, and we kind of organized batches of 500 entrepreneurs that went through coaching that we did, and we also flew in professors from Stanford University, and at the end of the program, the 10 best entrepreneurs presented in the biggest building in South America, which is in Chile. And there was the whole board, and also the people from the Chilean government that were kind of giving out the seed funding. So it was quite a unique program, which was fascinating. And got exposed to very cool people and different ideas. So it was a good experience, yeah.
Definitely, sounds good. Now, moving on to what you're doing now with UCLab, I saw on the website, it says, every day we analyze more than 1 billion articles from 150k news sources to provide a systematic overview of the sentiment trends in the market. Just curious, well, firstly, I don't know, how do you do that? What is the tech behind that? I suppose a lot of AI involvement. And also, why would companies need this? How can this be useful for companies?
Everyone is limited in its reading ability, and we all are captured in several filter bubbles, and we have a selection bias. So you tend to look at your preferred 1, 2, 3 media sources. They present you with the head articles, stories which they think are important, and you quite unconsciously spend an hour of your day reading articles where you have no guidance if these are the most important pieces for your job, right? So it's the most underserved process in any big organization, how a knowledge worker is informing themselves, because it's simply too complex to manage. And that is the whole point of UCLab. We want to make news measurable, and making it measurable means we go sentence by sentence through every article that we analyze, and then create an index that makes it measurable. How much is a company in the news? Is the sentiment positive, negative? How did it change? And in what events are these companies involved in? And that allows you to calibrate an AI assistant that analyzes and reads the news just like you. And that empowers you to look at thousands of entities and basically at all news content globally. And then you have a data-driven approach, and okay, I'm looking at ESG risk exposure in my supply chain. These are the 10 companies I need to look at, and all the other ones, they have no exposure. The AI didn't find anything. So stop wasting the time to read randomly and get a data-driven approach in place, because the tools are there, and which is unique. You can actually document for any decision. Okay, this is what I can see in unstructured news data. This is what the AI pre-classified as, let's say, risky. And then you can escalate it to compliance or to management. And then you attach that as a document, and you can kind of prove that's how I did my due diligence before I made the decision. So if the deal goes sour, you can say, there wasn't anything in the news. I did my job, and that will become more and more important, because we're seeing more and more companies being on the tabloids for some scandal that happens downstream in the supply chain, but they are the ones being targeted. So you need to be very good at feeling the pulse of the media across thousands of entities that you're second degree, third degree related with, because it can become a reputational risk. And for a FTSE 100 company, just the announcement to be involved in an ESG scandal will cost you 1.3 billion. So it destroys brand value very quickly. And that's basically the challenge of information overload. And so far, it was okay to base your decisions on structured data fundamentals, because they're solid, they're reliable, but they're just too slow for our fast-moving world. And that's what the 80% of the unstructured data can help you. And news is a real-time signal, and it's just not digestible by the human brain. You can share your insights from the stuff that you read, and that's what you need the AI for. It can do that for you, and then you base your expertise on top of these insights, and you beat the competition, whether that is in sales, in risk monitoring, in sustainability, or investment, which are our 4 main verticals that you collect.
How did you come up with this idea? Was it something, you were having this own issue in previous jobs where you weren't sure what to consume and how to use it?
You asked me how my master's degree was named. So if I translate it, it was called Information, Media and Technology Management, which to me said nothing, right? And then, I didn't want to become a sales guy or a marketing guy, because that was too specific. I want to be more, generic entrepreneurial oversight. So I thought, CEO assistant is something where you can have this perspective. You can learn how to kind of lead the company and how it's done. So I was looking for CEO assistant positions, and there was an anonymous position. There's not too many of those out there, from a leading media service company. And I interviewed, didn't know who the company was. And it turned out they were a media clipping company. So what they did is, for communication officials in Switzerland, collect all media reports and create this briefing for the management in the morning. And that's how I got into this very early stage. Quickly moved into key client responsibility to pick up the consumer needs directly from the clients and transfer it into the product, because I was also in charge of the product management, and then moved up into head of the product development, which was my kind of sweet spot where I wanted to go. I was on the board of that company, and by coincidence came into this whole big data and now AI movement. And I'm actually with that from the start, and I've over 15 years of experience in media intelligence. So it's always been with me. And with communication experts, it was always very much tied to the individual author and news article, because they wanted to kind of steer and influence and relate to them. But they weren't really, after strategic insights, because that's not really their job. And that was the idea with UCALab, to use that data point. So our first product is a investment signal based on the news sentiment. We have 16 different sectors, and based on the sentiment of the news in the sector, You then have an overall equity recommendation. If you should be 100% invested in equity. And once too many sectors start to have a negative or neutral sentiment, everyone starts to get nervous. And if you have a material event, you're going to lose the performance of the past 10 years, right? If the sentiment is very strong, everyone is confident, even if something material happens, you have a big correction of 3 days and then it goes back up again. And that was the first idea, to prove that news are not priced in, because the single news is already priced in. You can't trade it as a private person because you're just too late. But that's not true for the meta insights, because they're not measurable also for a professional trader unless they buy such a signal now. And from that we got the feedback, okay, that's great, but we are in the bull market. Can you not put a real-time currency of how a stock is in the news to every equity? So the idea was to build a currency for a new news presence, which is the news volume and the sentiment. And that's how we built this real-time news analytics platform, first focused at listed companies. Then we had Swiss Re that approached us with a global RFP and wanted that we create a news-based credit risk score, which we then did for 3 years. We are partnering with them and serving their credit underwriters with that. Then investment firm, Universal Investment, approached us and said, okay, your technology is great. ESG ratings are, always behind reality. It would be great to have an outside-in perspective based on the news, because they broadcast and report about things that, the company's never going to report by itself, right? They're never going to say, okay, we raised the minimum wage of child workers in the mine in Congo, but the journalists will do that. So you need to kind of have this inside-out perspective that the company reporting and the rating represent, and combine it with an outside-in perspective. So we developed an ESG score, an ESG risk score for them. And that's what UCALab stands for. So the lab is, the client is the domain expert. They can tell us where they have a pain point and where we can kind of change the processes, make them more efficient, have additional insights, transform their business or their products. And UCA stands for the tree. The tree has roots that takes from the ground what the branches, which are the business units, and the leaves, which are the knowledge workers, need to thrive. The organization doesn't have that for information, right? So in order to make your business thrive, you need an information advantage. And that's UCALab, because you can tell it and calibrate it with a score. That's exactly what I need from the news, and it will digest it for you. And then you can just execute and make better decisions. And it's on the opportunity side. You can pick better leads, have a differentiated sales approach by, have actual topics, have a high-level conversation instead of hard selling. Or you use it on early warning systems for risk management, sustainability, or for investment purposes where you use the data signal. And that's just a few use cases, because essentially everyone is using news at some point, and our technology can make it more efficient, more comprehensive, and eradicate uncertainty. So you don't have to leave news data unchecked on the table and just make the decision, and it might blow back on you in the aftermath. And that's what we want. Transform the way how you consume news by introducing this data-driven approach that lets you measure what's the most important, boosts your efficiency, adds value, and ultimately also lets you create new processes and products. Yeah.
Well, as it focuses on news from, newspapers and news outlets in general, how about social media? I know obviously Twitter or X, I'm not sure what we should call it now, kind of had or maybe still has an influence on the news in some way. Is it able to, or are you guys able to focus on that as well, or is that something you're working on?
Well, since we did investment signals from the start, we said, social media is very easy to manipulate, to build an army of bots and create a stream of fake news, essentially. So we said we are focusing on news. We want to be the best news analytics engine out there, because ultimately the gatekeeper, the journalists, they pick up the stories that come from Twitter, X, and social media, and they fact check it. And yeah, if it's a story, they will bring it in the news. So for day trading, you can probably use X, and it's relevant. For all the other use cases, timing is not that relevant. So you can kind of wait for the journalists to verify the story, pick it up, and the more it's repeated, the more important it gets. So we call it a kind of news Darwinism. So we don't put a kind of a weighting on the source, because more important sources are being repeated by nature more often. So the story doesn't have to be that good to be repeated a lot. But if you are a small source, the story needs to be really good to be repeated by others. And so a kind of Darwinistic way, you will see the trends spike for where there's relevance. And that's what we do. And on the other hand, there's also not so much social media streams that you can't really analyze. I mean, Facebook closed down. I did all the social media monitoring in my last company. That's what we built up there. And you could search Facebook, you could search Twitter. There were lots of channels, but it's pretty much X now. I mean, Instagram images for business is not the ideal, let's say, format and channel. And blogs is a question if you call them online news or social media. Yeah.
Just my final question. Is there any company or CEO that you would like to trade places with for a week or a short period of time to learn something, to see how they do something?
Well, if I would switch places, he wouldn't be there, the leader that I would like to learn from. I mean, you mentioned X, so I don't know if I would want to switch seats with Elon Musk there, because it's quite a hot seat. But he's definitely an entrepreneur that fascinates me. Like, I don't know how he does all these things. So just like peeking over his shoulder and see what he does and how he does it, that would be amazing. So I think there's a lot of great founders and CEOs out there that I could learn a ton from. He's just one of them now.
All right, brilliant. Well, I'll let you go. I imagine you must be very busy. Thank you for your time again, and all the best with UCollab.